right, everybody. Welcome to Statistically Speaking, a UteNation podcast. I am Ute fan Ivan, today joined by my friends Joe, Dustin, and Matt. We're going to talk today about last week's game of the Utah Utes versus Texas Tech. It's going to be a rough discussion. It's going to feel like a therapy session today, boys.
Little surrender Cobra for you there.
Yeah. Let's talk about impressions. I have not been able to see the predictions you guys made, so maybe you guys can mention that. Matt, why don't you start us off?
I'm ever the optimist, sometimes to a fault. This game went exactly the way I thought it would, but for Texas Tech instead of for Utah. Texas Tech showed that their weak schedule wasn't a big deal, that they dominated the teams that they should have dominated, and then they came out against Utah on the road, played a very good game. I think that the final score is not indicative of the game, and I think that a lot of fans, especially and clearly a lot of people against the University of Utah, as I've seen in many tweets, are taking that final score as, wow, Utah just got blown out. It was a close game. It was a game that Utah had a chance to win in the fourth quarter. Mistakes and penalties, fumbles, penalties cost them a lot. In the box score, the Red Raiders had way more penalty yards, but the big penalty against Utah only counted for 5 yards, and that was the illegal man downfield, which cost them a touchdown that could have changed the entire momentum of the game. So I think it's important to note that Utah does need to figure out some things offensively, but they played a good defense. This isn't the end of the world. It's one loss, and they still have many opportunities to show that they're a better team than what showed up on Saturday.
Yeah, agreed. 100%, Matt. I mean, the Utah defense played really well until the fourth quarter, right? And that's in part because they were getting very little help from the offense, but not no help. You're right. The fourth quarter starts, and it is 10-3. That is a winnable game. That's an easily winnable game. You get one more stop and one more score than your opponent in the fourth quarter, and you win that game. And then Utah holds them to a field goal and scores a touchdown. So now it's 10-13. So you are now less than a touchdown away from winning that game at that point. And then Utah gives up 250 of the 486 total yards in the fourth quarter and 3 third down conversions. 3 of the 9. Texas Tech has 9 total conversions. So 6 in the first 3 quarters and then 3 in the fourth quarter, as well as a fourth down is given up for a touchdown. That fourth quarter is a disaster on both sides of the ball. There's a turnover. There are every possession for Texas Tech results in a touchdown. It's a complete fall apart at that point. And, the defense has to take some credit for that, but I think most of that blame falls on the offense. The offense did not hold up their side of the bargain. I mean, this is a Utah offense that is 4 of 14 on third down, 0 of 2 on fourth down, 4.3 yards per attempt through the air, and 3.3 yards per carry on the ground. It's terrible top to bottom. I mean, it's a bad offensive showing. And you credit Texas Tech's defense. That is a good defense. That may be the best defense Utah sees all year, but it is also a bad offense. That offense played poorly. I don't think they're this bad. I think they're better than they look. And there's some injuries that go along with that, but they played poorly, even counting the injuries and the opponent into consideration.
I think that something that's not talked about much is the fact that, and this is totally my just perspective. There's nothing to back this up statistically, I guess. I could argue maybe there was, but I do not think Utah's defense was prepared to handle a mobile quarterback like Hammond. I think that what's the Texas Tech starting quarterback's name?
Baron Morton.
Morton. Yeah, Morton goes down, and terrible. It always sucks to see. and then Hammond, I believe is his name, comes out, and
This
Utah's
has
defense
happened.
just couldn't contain him on the run.
This has happened to Utah before. I can think of at least 2 other instances. One against USC a couple of years ago, where Utah is controlling the game. They've sacked the USC starting quarterback, and USC has gone through so many quarterbacks that I don't remember who it was, but this is pre-Caleb Williams.
Wasn't that Jackson Dart?
It might have been Jackson's 1 year there, and he's the backup. And he comes in and goes nuts. And same thing here. Utah's defense was playing really well, and even at the beginning played okay against the backup, but played really well against Morton. And Morton got a couple of runs in there, and that one long pass that his receiver did most of the work on. But 2 interceptions. He's just over 60%. His QBR is like 27, and then the backup comes in and throws 10, almost 11 yards per attempt, and went 8 for 61 on the ground. I mean, 7.5 yards a carry. So the backup, I think Utah's defense relies a lot on being prepared, on working really hard, doing a lot of work, prepping on the tape. And when there's no tape on somebody, and there can't be on the backup, you just can't be ready for it in the same way. So,
well, and on building a game plan that stymies the player's ability the quarterback's ability to make good decisions, right? By being deceptive and so when you change the kind of decisions that the quarterback is making, suddenly your game plan is just not effective anymore. And I feel like I see Utah all the time struggle with this unless they're really, really ready for a mobile quarterback, because the defensive line is coached to be so aggressive at the edge that they tend to sort of fold in and leave gaps for the right kind of running quarterback. It's a kind of play style that doesn't tend to survive league play for an entire season, because you get hit often enough that it's ultimately really hard to sustain that kind of play. But it works really well when you're a backup quarterback and you're playing a team that was ready for a really aggressive, very much a pass first opponent. I hear what everybody's saying about the drives in the fourth quarter. It's really hard for me as a game watcher to not take that mentality. So one of my foundational principles as a stats guy is there's no momentum, right? There is a set of plays. You have a bag of plays like Scrabble tiles, and you are pulling plays out of the bag of Scrabble tiles, and you are sorting them in a random order. So at the end of the day, when you're modeling a game, you are just having random plays, random drives, and a random result based on the sort of bell curve of possible outcomes. When you watch the game, it's hard not to see that that trend and that momentum and that sense of the defense kind of folding. But when you're modeling games, the best, most predictive way to do it is to throw all that out the window and just to think about each play as an individual random event and each drive as sort of an individual conglomeration of those. So to me, looking at the game that way and thinking about it in that statistical sense, what it looks like to me is that one offense was considerably better than the other, and that eventually the Utes defense just ran out of good luck, and that the Texas Tech's ability to get more yards per play on average started to add up, and eventually they just started to score points. And so that's sort of the statistical game that I saw for sure. My big takeaway, and this is the thing, I say this all the time, when a sporting team loses that you're rooting for, is you go back to the beginning of the year and say, well, how many wins did I think this team was going to get? Yeah, I mean, raise your hand, anybody listening, if you thought that the University of Utah was going to go 12-0 and win the
Matt, raise your
national
hand.
title.
I actually
Matt, raise your hand.
I actually
I mean,
didn't.
we argued on the pregame for the first game. We argued over 8 or 9 wins for this football team.
Yeah.
Right, that was kind of where we were all landing. Maybe they get lucky and get 10. Which means, like, I'm not like not trying to overwhelm anybody with complicated math here, but if they don't win 12 games, that means they're going to lose some. And this is one of the hard games, and it's one of the sorry. I know we're trying not to go to math school here.
Statistically speaking, here,
but
this is what
but
this
if you
is.
don't win everything, you lose something. And this is just one of the games that the University of Utah lost this year. And they lost it to a really good team. And sometimes you're at the bottom end of that curve. And it could be all sorts of reasons. It could be injuries. We're hearing rumors and stories about these kinds of things. And that's absolutely part of football, and absolutely one of the reasons why sometimes teams don't perform as well as they do. It could be that they had a big party the night before, some of the guys on, and they weren't ready for the game. It could be that they somebody broke up with their girlfriend that week. There's all sorts of dumb reasons, including just the way the ball bounces, that results in fumbles being recovered and interceptions being picked off, that change the outcome of these games. And they're unpredictable, and sometimes the breaks go your way and sometimes the breaks don't go your way. And when you're playing a team as good as Texas Tech, you can't afford a bunch of breaks not to go your way, and you definitely can't afford to add to that unforced errors and mistakes, which the Utes definitely did. When you play other teams, you can do. We saw against Wyoming, the Utes had all sorts of problems and mistakes and issues.
Lots of penalties.
But they're so much better than Wyoming that over time it all comes out in the wash, and then the Utes wind up with a nice healthy score. And you just can't afford to have a poor game against a good opponent, and that's what happened to Utah. But the great thing is we don't have to be in this Mountain West mentality anymore, where when your team plays a game against a ranked opponent, you have to win that game, because that is your one ticket into the big show, and you need to kind of be able to hang that pelt on the wall, or else it all falls apart. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If Utah were to go on and they were to win their next 8 games, guess what? Playoffs, right? I mean, that's how this works now for this team, and that's awesome. And it's much more of a week to week kind of experience, and you just pick yourself up and dust yourself off, and you say, what's West Virginia gonna do, and have fun and enjoy it. I think the big curse for sports fans is they tend to raise their expectations every time their team meets their expectations, right? You set high expectations for the Utes, and they're kicking butt, and you say, all right, well, now, gosh, sky's the limit. Let's get ranked number 4. What this one voter in the AP didn't vote for the Utes. This is insanity. Like, look at this and this and this, and you just keep ratcheting up your expectations until you're disappointed. So what I always say is sit in the expectations you had at the beginning of the year and be confident in those, and trust yourself, and just enjoy the ride, because it's still a really, really good football team. They're going to win a ton of games through the rest of the year. There's going to be a lot of exciting football, and virtually guaranteed bowl game to for you to watch around your menorah or your Christmas tree, and that's good times. It's good times. So
it's interesting, Joe. You're like known as the guy who's gonna make us feel bad when we're predicting games, but you've made me feel better looking back on the game. So
he tries to bring us to the middle. Joe wants us to stop being so optimistic about the
bell
future.
Curve is cushy.
Be so pessimistic after Joe's trying to push us right to the middle of that bell curve.
I wonder how
lots of room.
I wonder how fans would feel if Utah lost this game like 42-38. I think the biggest problem with this game was it just brought back so many bad memories from really the last 2 seasons.
2 years. Yeah.
And when you see a team
last forever seasons. It's the last forever seasons.
Yeah.
You think about all the way back to Norm Chow, the offenses,
That's
right? Like we all Ute fans have PTSD about the Utes offense, and that PTSD has been earned. I was in Washington for work a couple weeks ago, and there was a Cougars fan, and we were just chatting over lunch. And
wait, you have lunch with Cougar fans?
Yeah, well, and he not a white Cougar, Washington State Cougar,
right?
And
one of the 17 teams named Cougars.
and we brought the conversation around to that awful game that the Utes played against Washington State, where they were up. I don't even remember what. And I mean, it was off. Still traumatized by that. So Utes fans have been there so much that when this kind of game happens, I think the instinct is to sort of throw the whole season out, right? And say, oh, here we go. This is going to be one of these years with a top 10 defense and a bottom 10 offense. But there isn't anything in the stats that supports that. This is a game where the offense underperformed against an excellent defense, but that's not the same thing as, Norm Chow, 9 yards, kick a field goal. Like it's just not that. Yep. It's just not that team. There's lots of good players on this football team, tons of good players on this offense, and they're going to score plenty of points to win most of the games that they play.
Yep. Factoring in this game against the best defense Utah is likely to play, and definitely the best defense Utah has played so far, they're 32nd in total offense still.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a solid offense.
I love you guys so much. We are over time. We're gonna cut it off right there for that segment. Everybody who's watching, and we appreciate all of you so much. Leave your comments down below what you thought about the Utah Texas Tech game. And no matter how negative it is, I mean, like, we want to see everything. We want to see what you guys think, and what you think about what we said. But yeah, thank you so much for watching Statistically Speaking, a UteNation podcast. You can join UteNation.com today with promo code UTE50 for a discounted subscription rate. Get some more, exclusive content, some stuff you wouldn't see on Twitter, which is nice that you don't have to view it on that platform. But thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.